Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're ready to go. My name is Ewan Cameron. I'm the VP for Business Consulting within the Supply Chain Division of ORTEC. I'll be your host for this webinar. It's great to see so many familiar names in the attendee list and some new ones as well. We're excited about the programme we've prepared today, and we hope you'll find it inspiring, practical and valuable. Today is all about seeing all the latest developments on AI-driven cloud-native innovations. We will show you solutions for B2B delivery, store delivery, load optimization, B2C delivery, and that can support you on in your daily business. We'll spend most of our time in live demonstrations, keep the PowerPoint to a bare minimum, showing you how the new functionality works in practice. And we also have an exclusive interview with our customer, Bunzl. To keep things running smoothly, all microphones are muted. Feel free to share your questions in the Q&A at any time. We're actively monitoring this and will address them during the session or in the Q&A at the end. Thank you very much, and I'll now hand over to Zabi.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Ewan. Just a warm welcome from my side as well. My name is Sabi, and I look after ORTEC's retail, wholesale, and transportation business in Europe. So we will be talking about the latest and greatest technologies today. A lot of AI as well. For the record, what you see now, these are not avatars. These are really myself and Ewan, and then Jordan in a minute as well. Jordan is our VP for Research and AI, and he will be kicking off with the cool stuff in a few seconds. Jordan, you ready?
Unfortunately, I am a PowerPoint deck, so they've put me at the beginning, and then you get to see the actual demos following on from me. Just to give you a bit of background, I've worked in or around transport and logistics for around 25 years. I'm chartered member of the Institute of Logistics and Transport in the UK, having spent most of that, well, half of that time in actual operations, before moving on to the dark side of sales and now eventually into the technology side. So hopefully you'll see that I come at this from maybe a slightly different angle from some of the pure tech people that we speak to. Sorry, just 1 second. So when it comes to AI in supply chains now, we're not talking about if and when anymore. I'm sure you've seen every vendor has it in their pitch, in their slide decks. Every CIO that's on this call will have it on their roadmap. Everyone hears it at least 20 times a day, probably more in my line of work. But the question that actually matters for us, and the one that we kind of want you to hold on to, is how do we do that in a way that actually delivers value to the people doing the day-to-day work? Basically, the story is that I believe that by working with AI, you will effectively have the leverage and become more powerful and not be replaced by it. Mentioning I've worked and be part of on both sides of the table on tenders for and implementations for optimization tools, telematics, analytics platform, and every time, without exception, the same conversation kind of starts. Some people get nervous. They think the tech is there for their job. Especially for those of us that have implemented optimization tools over the years. But what actually happens in reality is the ones who embrace the technology get the better results and more satisfaction from doing the job better. The ones who resist it are the ones that get left behind, and that applies to both organizations and individuals. It's not the technology that decides, it's whether you choose to work with it. And I believe AI is no different. It's the same dynamic, same opportunity. The teams who thrive over the next 5 years or so will be the ones who learn to work with AI and who spend less time fighting the complexity and more time making the decisions. One thing which might be slightly different message from perhaps other vendors that you will hear this story from, but this is something that we believe at ORTEC and me especially. AI and maths on their own don't actually drive business value. If you have optimization without AI, you're missing the patterns emerging in your data. We all know optimization and OR is brilliant at solving problems you give it, but it's not so good at noticing that the problem has actually changed. If you've got AI without optimization, you get recommendations that aren't executable, suggestions without the operational reality are just opinions. And both of those, optimization alone or AI alone, will fail without the third thing, which is what we try to bring. Domain expertise is the bridge. It's what keeps the maths and the models grounded in how supply chains actually run. We've been doing this for 45 years, I think it is now. That domain expertise is in the products, it's in the models that we're developing, and it's in the teams that you guys work with kind of on a daily basis. So we believe that intelligent supply chains thrive with all three, not at one corner, but with all three in the middle. And that brings me on to introducing the next slide. So everything I've just talked about, working with AI, all three capabilities coming together, leads onto this. A new intelligence layer that we're bringing across your operations, not a tool or another dashboard, something that will be embedded into every decision we make, and we're calling it ART by ORTEC. ART is a kind of a tribute or a nod also to one of our founders, Art, who helped start ORTEC 45 years ago. And we believe the name also captures what we believe great planning is: part science, part art, part maths, part judgment, and operational knowledge. Art by ORTEC honours both. It connects the science to the judgment and will sit embedded in your planning workflow. Its job is to make the job simple and take complexity off the operator's plates. Let me just go straight through there we go. So this is probably the most important slide for me to show you guys. So please stay with me for this one. Our AI roadmap, in effect, isn't a single destination. We're looking at it as three horizons that are not kind of distinctive, but more build on each other. It's kind of a flow that we're seeing. So what we're looking at now, that is what is live today or in the very near future, is art that helps you understand what's happening in your operation and helps you act on it faster. A few examples would be in-app help, which helps with the onboarding, natural language answers, and can keep you up to date with the release notes on new features. Second, natural language filtering. As an example, if a planner wants to identify every route that has been dispatched late and now has deliveries showing as late downstream, that would be fairly difficult to filter with standard filters. But with AI, we could use compound filters, we could use multiple conditions, and with the user just using natural language. The third level on assistive is user actions. So a concrete kind of example there for planners doing tactical what-if analysis, the kind of thing where you would normally have an Excel file with your volumes and import them once and then export it again and then do some stuff in Excel and then re-import it. That kind of thing is where we want the AI assistant to be able to help you with that. So if your question is, okay, Art, please increase the volume on all orders by 20% because I'm doing a prediction of next Christmas's volumes or something. They're the kind of things we want Art to be able to take care of. And these, like I say, Horizon 1 is kind of now or very, very near future. Horizon 2 moves on to guided and suggestive. This is where Art starts recommending what to do, not just here's what's happening, but here's what I would do about it. So a couple of examples on this level would be perhaps in tactical planning, Art might suggest using a slightly different optimization tuning to get a better result. It's seen the pattern, it tells you what it would recommend, and then you get to decide. Or in execution, Art might propose swapping 2 drivers around to avoid a delay that's potentially going to happen later in the day. And then that's the same idea. The recommendation comes to you. You make that decision on what's the information that Art's giving you. And that's kind of the important bit of this stage. We see this as building the trust so that every recommendation is visible. You can accept it, you can reject it completely, or you could ask for a modification in that suggestion. Over time, you will then see the things that Art is getting right. You will see where it needs a little bit of guidance, and hopefully that will build the confidence of where we are moving towards Horizon 3, which is more future focused, proactive, and autonomous in its actions. Where this is where it kind of gets interesting in my eyes, where we're looking towards a level of configurable autonomy. And I guess that word is the key there, is configurable. You still stay in control. However, you decide what Art can do on its own, and you can turn it on step by step as your confidence grows. So to follow on with the 2 examples again, if Art spots a potential late delivery later on in the execution, it could reschedule the affected orders automatically and just tell you what it's done. You didn't have to ask it, you didn't have to authorize it, because you've already decided that kind of low stakes reschedule is okay for Art to handle. Or to take a low risk resourcing call, Art swaps 2 drivers around to reduce the chance of a late delivery later on in the day. But same dynamic, you are going to set the guardrails. Art will act within where you left it. Human is still in the loop, just on the things that actually need human judgment, not this is the whole goal, that the human is not thinking about the 200 small things and concentrating on the things that they really have the expertise in. So we're going from assistant to advisor to autonomous partner. And to be clear, we're not there today, but the path is laid out and every step gets built on the trust built on from the previous step. And I'm not sure what my time's like because I messed up with the PowerPoint to start with, but you'll be pleased to know this is the last slide from me. With 2 use cases. The The planner co-pilot is essentially what I've just covered in the horizons. So what I want to land here is probably the second section. What I want to land here is AI as more as a co-worker. So I've worked in transport offices, in planning offices, and let's be honest, we all know planners, transport operators, managers, they all work across many different tools. They've all got multiple browser windows open. They've got tabs open, office applications. So why does ORTEC or ART sit outside that? And why does the planner have to leave those conversations to go to the application to do something, to come back into the office application to confirm that they've done that action? So these are some of the examples. We've been working with Microsoft closely on a number of innovations and things like unified platforms, analytic ontologies. And the one I want to mention is the proof of concept we've done, which a few of you might have seen the video for, is of ART acting directly within a customer's Office 365 environment, where you can add ART to a Teams group chat. He could post updates on how the operation's going, or if HR flags a driver as ill, rather than the operator needing to do that, ART can remove the resource from the route and also email the driving agency to request a replacement, just as examples. Or a customer service desk person needs an update on an order, rather than needing to ping the transport team and pull somebody off the operation, they can just go into their own teams and at ORTEC and say, please can give me an update on X delivery. And I like this example because it kind of circles back to where I started, which is we want to use AI and ART to take away the noise and let the humans concentrate on making decisions. Hopefully I haven't gone too long over my time. But that's me.
Thanks, Jordan. No, you're only a few minutes over, 2 minutes over. Thank you very much. Okay. We'd now like to hand over to Ben Kumar to introduce himself, and we're going to take you through ORTEC B2B Logistics. Okay. Over to you, Ben.
Thanks, Ewan. Thanks, Jordan, as well. Yeah, I'll be taking you through B2B, which is the cloud native tool, and we'll take you through the various stages. Jordan mentioned tactical planning, what ifs, operational, and we'll also preview a bit of what ART looks like inside of those applications, just to kind of give you a bit of a flavor of what that looks like. And we'll just show you some of the features that are within the cloud and where those different modules sit. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen. You can see the opening page here to the B2B Delivery Suite. You'll see that there's a couple of tiles that are upcoming, and they are things that are in development that are being connected up to the portals. So one thing to say is that there are constantly things being added to the suite. So what we're showing you today is what's kind of live and in motion. A couple of things that are coming in the future as well, but it's worth saying that the suite isn't just designed around operational planning alone. So those of you that have known ORD in the past, you're just kind of working in the operational environment, and then you may model separately using other ORTEC products. The idea is that B2B is all in one place. Okay, so we have the tactical planning and the operational in the two left-hand side columns. And we're going to start off with the high level process. So essentially asking those what if questions, going through that process, and then actually ending up in the operational planner. And the highest level question we can ask really is, where are my depots and what customers am I going to associate with those depots based upon rules? And the way that we cover that is using a depot assignment module. So we can import all the locations, customers, stores, whatever it may be, and also our depots, and decide what are our working hours associated with that depot. And how we're going to divide the visits up. So you can see here on the left-hand side, we've got working time that's associated with the depot, but we're doing a pre-step to say, well, if you pre-assign the customers that you're currently servicing from that depot, actually already we can see that the depot is overloaded. So how can we divide the visits up to locations from a specific depot based on rules such as working time? And as I move over to a different tab, you can see here, here's a different environment that we set up now, but what it's doing is blocking off parts of the country to ensure that we've got certain depots covering certain areas and there's no overlaps. In this example, we didn't want any overlaps, but we may decide that we want to have a fixed area that a specific depot covers. And what it means is that we can start to recarve up the network. And again, it's at a high level, but it's enabling us to see this bird's eye view of what's going on across the country and working out not simply, how many visits, how many pallets or whatever it may be, but what's the working time that's associated with those different parts of the country. So clearly in high dense areas, you theoretically would have a smaller area to cover geographically. But those wider areas, you may want to have more visits, more working time. And equally, that relates to the amount of vehicles that you might be running as well. So all that information can be pushed into the depot assignment to understand at a very first stop, where are the depots and what areas we're covering. And from this, we can decide to carve up those zones. So in our zone engineering manager, what we're doing is we're saying, well, look, here's our zone that we created here. How many territories would I want to carve that zone up into? And a territory could be anything. It could be just specific zones you want a group of vehicles to work in. It could be singular vehicles working within a territory. But it's how you want to manage your zones within a zone. So we're kind of breaking it down into this. Where are my depots? How am I carving up my areas? And also now saying, well, what does my zone look like for each of those territories? And our working time per territory could be the working time of a vehicle over a week, over a couple of weeks, over a period of time, maybe a single day. But as you can see on the left-hand side here, as I go down, each of those zones now are marked out to split your area up into working territories. And those working territories could be recalculated based upon different rules, such as visit frequency. So I might want to visit a customer 3 times a week, but I can't go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I have to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. But I have to deliver a certain volume on a Monday or at the beginning of the week and a certain volume at the end of the week. How do I carve that up? So now we're asking that question of, what are my territories? How often am I servicing my customers? What if I change the frequency of that customer as well? What's the impact on my working time? Also, as well, if I do create a territory, what does a route look like? So when I've created a territory over the week, I want a nice balance of work throughout the week. And you can see here that this instantly pops out. We can say, right, territory 1 is looking pretty good. Hang on a minute, territory 11, I can't be running vehicles for 2 hours a day. All of this is done before we even get into a tactical plan. It's working out where those hours are, and we could re-optimize, or we can go in and check out what those territories look like and theoretically say, well, if I did have this territory, what does my route look like? Would it be something that I would be prepared to drive myself, hand out to a driver? And as we go through these days of the week, you can see that the same driver, theoretically in this example, will be covering the same territory. And so we're considering at this point driver familiarity, which is really important because, of course, we all know how volatile the kind of driver resourcing part of the industry is. So to retain driver familiarity is a step that we're doing at the modeling phase to say if we block all these drivers off or regions off or territories off, actually what we get is something that is familiar to the driver every day or group of drivers every day. But we know that potentially that could drive in cost because we're keeping certain drivers in certain areas and maybe we're not utilizing them as much. And that's where we can then start to run different models and say, well, if I run model 1, what's the impact on my working time? Do my number of visits change? But actually, what happens here in very, very simplistic areas, such as the travel time? Well, if I use option 1, my travel time is this, but option 2, my travel time is this. Same number of territories, same number of visits, but I've just reduced the amount of working time or increased the amount of working time that my drivers can do. What's the impact of that? And so it's continuously asking these questions and enabling us to run a comparison against each of my territories. My KPIs can be shown as well. And I can add in new scenarios each time I'm comparing these. Equally as well, I can go into a specific territory and say, well, here's territory 1 in version A, and here's territory 1 in version B. What's the impact of that? And you can see our working time here is only slightly changing, but it's that slight change in rule set. E.g., I only want to work for 8 hours a day, or I only want to work for 8.5 hours a day. What's the impact on that? And we're asking all of those questions before it becomes operational, and even before we've done any more robust modeling in tactical planning, which I'll come on into a moment. And the tactical planning side of it is almost kind of like the second step of this high level. But even before we get there, just to lean on what Jordan was telling us earlier, now we can introduce the AI assistant. So I've run optimization in this example, and I said, do you know what? Can you actually re-optimize these and aim for between 38 to 40 hours, or as close as possible? Because we know it can't be exact, but I need to try and rebalance that work. I've also asked the assistant to give me the steps and considerations that the AI assistant is going to use to achieve this. So the answer comes back, yep, we're going to generate the proposals based upon the working times, and here's how the optimization works. So what we're doing at this stage, and this is leaning on what Jordan said about this first stage, this assisted and informational step that we're in at the moment. And clearly it's going to develop. But at this point, we're asking ART to give us some information about how it's optimizing. Historically, we can run the optimization no matter what product we're working in. And, the optimization is kind of hidden behind a button. Now, there's a bit of configuration that goes on in the background. Clearly, there's large optimization projects that go on. But what this is hopefully doing is empowering the end user to give them a bit of understanding about what the optimizer is doing, and also to challenge the optimizer and say, no, the first proposal you gave me was fine, but I actually now need to make it more operationally viable. To Jordan's point again earlier, maths alone, is great, but we need to make sure that things are operationally working as well. So it's those little tweaks that we know that are going to increase cost, and we know they're going to increase complexities into our modeling. But we want the AI assistant to help us out with that. So in this example, I've said, great, I'm happy with that. I want you to proceed. And what happens here is that we're now presented with a couple of different proposals. We can check out each proposal, and you can see here, if I just close this down, you can see here that proposal 1 has got a less compact field. So there's some dots a bit further away from each other. But we actually have lower working time. And it might seem counterintuitive, but by drawing things together, we're considering how long it takes to visit these customers. So duration on site, distance between the dots, and also distance from the depot as well. And so we might want to cluster everything together because it looks nice on the map. But actually, we need to have it a bit more cost effective, so therefore we can drive down the working time. And that is a change in mindset. It's sometimes quite an uncomfortable conversation because the colours on the map say, well, hang on a minute, let's just hit one territory and it makes sense to do all those guys there. But actually, our time windows are influencing that. If I stay in one territory, I'm going to incur waiting time. I might wait 3 hours for a store to open, and that's fine if that's operationally agreed. But why not use that 3 hours to drive a bit further south or whatever it is, pick up an order and then return home? So in that idea, we can then use proposal 1, but proposal 2, we might want to make things a bit more compact. And you can see here as I jump between the two proposals, the working time over the week will change. And also the number of pallets in this example or units of measurement will also change. So territory 1 goes from 39 hours to 41 hours. Fine. But if we're paying a 40-hour week, that's 2 hours of overtime potentially we're going to incur there. That's fine if it's operationally viable and it's signed off, but it's giving us this heads up before it starts. So that's the first part of the modeling piece. And within the modeling piece as well, we want to make sure that our customers are in the correct places. And what's working in tandem as well is that we can have a customer services option whereby those customers are pulled in and we can now define exactly where those customers are. So you can alter that within the product using the map, satellite mapping in there, of course. But as I'm building my zones, I can also then say, hang on a minute, these customers aren't in the correct place. Maybe our coordinates are off. So it's a nice way of just checking and rechecking where data is and whether that's being all drawn together. As I move into the tactical planner, you can see here that I've gone from tile zone engineering manager, which included the depot assignment, into our tactical planner. And what this means is that we have a much more complex set of data we can now play with. So when we're importing, and it's through dragging and dropping files in, or we can use the APIs, we now have a complex setup of the vehicles. And in here, we can edit those details out, providing freight vehicle types, start and end times, debrief time, working breaks, maximum trips, rules about stop duration factors and travel duration factors. So we have sliders in here as well. And the idea is to make this simplistic to use. So we're relying on decent data coming in, solid bit of data to start with, which allows the planners to then start using the system with speed, because we know how quickly data is changing and everything like that. So within the system here, we can see that hopefully the options are not limited, but certainly focused on what the end users will be looking at most. Okay, so primarily looking at optimization, looking at editing out certain information such as our vehicle types, maximum work time. We're using here tags quite a lot as well. So a vehicle must have a certain tag capability, rule set that's associated with it that can serve as a certain store. Forbidden actions as well. This vehicle type cannot access this store. From a store or order level as well, we can then start to go in and edit out arrival times, not allowed vehicle types. I want to make sure my arrival times are an hour earlier, an hour later. Why do I want to do this? Well, I want to run multiple models if I can. And within here, there's a KPI suite that sits in the background, just ticking over and recording all the moves that we're making. So you can see here, I've got a variety of KPIs here, and they're all covering off different parts of Europe. Okay, so we've got lots of different models that I've been running, and you can see here what the impact is on me running those different models. So we can start to compare those scenarios out within the system. What does this look like when we have unplanned work? Well, we have our map here, and you can see here I can toggle this map as well to move over to a default map if I choose to, so we can move all those around. And equally as well, I can start to zoom in to parts of the country and really get a good feel of what the area is. So if I could go right down, now I'm looking at street level mapping here, and I can start to switch the map around to see some detail. I can then take out areas of the country, and potentially I'm interested in doing a bit of optimization. So let's do that. We've imported our data, and within here as well, without kind of straying too far into the detail of it, there's a whole data management piece that sits in the background here, showing our orders and routes. And from a planning perspective, I'm then interested in maybe looking at a specific depot. So in this example, I'm going to choose Manchester. And with Manchester, you can see I've pulled out all the Manchester vehicles, and I've pulled out all of the Manchester orders that are associated. I can then take my fleet and my orders, and I can schedule that with the optimizer, and we can watch that go through and pick up these orders, and you can see it applies the orders, and it's already publishing the routes whilst we're actually talking here. So in terms of these routes, you can see that the default has been laid out by via the road. But of course, we could switch that if we wanted to, just to show the straight lines in there. But the idea of me showing you this primarily is to show the speed of the map. Okay, so the congestion and all the vehicle profiles that are sitting behind the map are dictating how the vehicles can be used, of course. That's looking at congestion every 15 minutes. But equally now, we're working with a map that is, very responsive. Equally, I can go into those details of the map here and see what my orders look like that have been planned. If I choose to, I can zoom to a specific order and it will take me in there. Or equally, I can start to move things around and replan it. I can put the detail in here, showing me what distances between these stores and what the changes are that I've made. And you can see here there's a running KPI going down the bottom. So what we can see here is a plan that has been created for a specific depot. And on the left-hand side here, we have the KPIs that it's showing there, and I can sort these by duration. Oh, look, these vehicles haven't been used. That's okay. Let's just show them on empty. Now I'm interested in what has been used, and you can see one vehicle here that's only been used for part of the day. So you think, well, that's no good. So we can schedule that order. And there's my order there. And I can choose to, if I want to, I can say, well, that order, we can put it onto that vehicle. But now I've manually planned an order, and you can see on the left-hand side here, a violation has occurred because I've interrupted the planning. I'm the planner, though. I'm in charge. And I can say, do you know what? That's okay. But also, here's a reminder that you've just broken the capacity of that trip. So the idea is to be able to filter out and maneuver around the tactical planner with ease. And when it comes to the tactical planner, we want to have a seamless transition into the operational planner. And the operational planner looks exactly the same. All I've done is jump from tactical to operational. And in that process, you can see here that the screen looks exactly the same. The only difference now is that I also got Art assisting me in the top right hand side here of the screen. And what you can see is, again, leading on what Jordan said earlier, this assistive informational part of the process that we're in at the moment. I've asked Art, how do I manually plan a route? Right, this is an obvious question, I know, but what this helps with is training. So now you have new users coming in and they just want to start to get to know the system. So we've got the information in the background that I, as a new user, I've come in to work for your business. And yeah, you may have a rigorous training session and embedding. But of course, when you're new in the job, you may want to be able to just quickly refer to the user guide, essentially, in this case. Now, clearly, there'll be more complex assistant functionalities coming in. But in the first place, we have this example here. So I've asked, how do I manually plan a route? And it's telling me to manually plan a route, you need to do the following. So it gives a bit of a concise overview, and I can continue on with my daily life. Equally, though, we're planning. We're in the so-called real world. And in here, I've got some plans that I've created for one part of the country. And you can see there, I can filter those out. And you can see some of them are grayed out currently. And what I've done in this specific example is I've sent these over to the dispatcher. How have I done that? I've finished the planning. And basically they're saying, I've done the planning. I've used Optimizer as I did do in Tactical Planner in the same way. But I'm now finishing the planning and sending them over for dispatch. Or I could do any number of other functionalities. I could also select a vehicle and I can show the KPIs. So during the whole process, those KPIs are ticking over constantly to show me what information I need very, very swiftly.
Minutes, Ben.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you. So just as a closer here, the other bits of functionality in here are being able to check load on the way through. And I know our colleague will show you a bit more about this later on. But what it means is when you're operationally planning, you do have the option to then check if the load is correct with a nice visualization. And all of this hangs in the background with our other product, OLO, which will be shown later. But what we're talking about here is the operational planner being executed, being checked, and then the final bit is the dispatcher. And what you can see here are our vehicles that are running around the country, and this is realizations coming in, and I'm able to see the details of that route, and also check in at any time what that dashboard looks like in terms of what's been completed so far. So, very, very quick tour of what B2B is. And at this stage, what I'm going to do is hand over to my colleague Betty, who will then go through a nice little discussion with David, I believe.
Thanks, Ben. Hello, everyone. I'm part of the business development team in Europe, and I'm based in the UK, and I have the pleasure of looking after the Bunzl account. So we are delighted that Bunzl has kindly accepted our invitation to join us today and share their experience with B2B. Without further ado, it gives me the great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, David East, Head of Transport at Bunzl Catering Supplies. David, thank you very much for accepting our invitation. To begin, could you tell us a bit about yourself and give us a brief overview of Bunzl Catering Supplies, including what does the company do and your role within the business?
Yep, sure. Thank you, Betty, and good morning, everyone. So I'm David East, and I'll give you a quick insight into who I am. So after finishing university, I joined one of the UK's leading transport companies, Eddie Stobart, which you'll probably know now is part of the Cleaner Group. Had a variety of operational roles there, and building further on that experience, I then moved to DHL, and then further on from that, Wincanton, before joining Bunzl in 2020. Bit of a sketchy year to join a catering and hospitality business pre-COVID, but we got there. So I joined Bunzl Catering Supplies as the transport planning manager, and the key task in that role, if you like, when I started, was to centralise our transport planning operations into what we now know as the Transport Control Centre. So following the success of that transformation, I was promoted in 2023 to the head of transport role, which is what I'm doing now, and I currently lead the company's transport strategy and operations. So that's a bit of background on myself and my role. So stepping back slightly, if we look at the slide that Betty's going to bring up for me, I think this gives you the context of what Bunzl Catering Supplies as a business do. So we operate across the full hospitality spectrum. So that could be from contract catering, restaurants, through to hotels, travel, and the public sector. So we really provide a consolidated single source solution for non-food products. So if you think of a coffee shop and their disposable cups, that's the kind of things that we're shipping. At the heart of what we do is reducing complexity and risk to our customers. So that's really why we support such a wide range of well-known organizations that you can see on the screen there. So I guess talking about what we do and who we support, the next slide gives you a bit of an overview of how our transport operation is structured and a bit of an insight into how sort of the planning goes on in our business. So we operate across 8 locations. Our main distribution centre is in Tamworth, and we manage a fleet of just over 120 vehicles. So that ranges from a 3.5-ton van all the way up to a 44-ton articulated vehicle. We operate on a day 1 for day 3 model, and that really gives us the ability to balance service and efficiency across our national network.
Thanks, David. And just to put our relationship with Bunzl into context, since we got a lot of people in the call, this slide shows a brief timeline highlighting some of the key milestones of over a decade of partnership. It's safe to say Bunzl has been a champion of ORTEC technologies, keeping them on the front line of transport planning organizations. The most recent of these first, and the reason David is here today with us, is the upgrade to our latest truly cloud-native planning suite, B2B. As an early adopter, Bunzl continues to provide valuable insights based on operational usage, having a distinct impact on our roadmap discussions. And when our customers speak, we tend to listen. So next, David, I would be interested to know why you have chosen to continue the partnership with ORTEC. What value does ORTEC bring to the business, and why B2B?
I think you kind of hinted at one of the main reasons there, Betty, is that long-standing relationship we've got with ORTEC. I think ORTEC's familiarization with our business, and we also know ORTEC was a real benefit to us, and that obviously stood out when we were making a decision. Obviously, we had to do some due diligence as well, so we explored other options with some of the well-known providers, but I'm pleased to say that ORTEC's B2B software still came out on top when we did that due diligence piece. I think, you know, ORTEC and B2B offered all the benefits that we were looking for, you know, with a supportive and collaborative team that we've built that relationship over a long time. And also we're going through quite a large IT transition at the moment with a project to bring in a WMS system into our business, and we're also looking at renewing our ERP system. So really partnering with a company that knew us was really important to us. I think B2B also gave us the opportunity to get involved in the early stages of the software development, which for me felt really exciting making that decision. And then, you know, also seeing the roadmap that Jordan and Ben have also shared, but we had vision of, was an exciting prospect to get involved in. So I think really it just allowed us to develop that strong relationship we've already got and be involved in a really exciting product coming to market.
Thank you. We are really looking forward to strengthening our partnership further. For our audience, could you provide a high-level overview of the B2B project and the go-live process?
Yep, sure. So I think the real, going back to the start, the catalyst for the project was the end of support for on-premise solutions. So we had ORD 10 and it was hosted on our own servers at Bunzl. So the next part, I guess, discounting the other providers that we looked at that I've just mentioned, we had the option to upgrade to ORD 12, or we could go to B2B. And I think we could quite clearly see B2B was the future, the roadmap that ORTEC presented us. And like I say, it was an exciting prospect to get involved in. So following that, we set to fully implement an API-based integration between Sage, which is our current ERP, ORTEC B2B, and Microlize, which is our tracking and telematics software. And that was successfully delivered. We got the integrations in with ORTEC, and we've now moved to a more connected, data-driven transport operation compared to what we had previously. I think we did learn that whilst we had a robust testing plan in place, there were some design elements that only became visible at a production scale. So once we went live, we identified some further opportunities to optimize how the integrations were managed. But I think a real key to the success of the project was the collaboration between ORTEC and Bunzl. And I think incidentally, we're on Teams now, but we had a Teams chat set up between the two teams as part of the project. And that was an absolute goldmine, really, in terms of being able to quickly discuss any items that flagged up that we needed to get a quick answer on. So definitely would recommend that as a point for anybody looking to explore a new implementation.
Indeed, I think also from our side, the collaboration was the key factor in this success. So now, considering that you are live with B2B since January, what benefits or process improvements have been observed by the business since then?
I think certainly we've seen that regular map upgrades are a huge improvement over where we were with ORD 10. There's no downtime previously. You know, I think we almost shied away from map upgrades because of the downtime involved, some of the data elements that went with that. Now they just happen. You don't even notice it. You come in, you plan, the map's updated, and it's brilliant. We've seen improved performance, I think, like what Ben showed a moment ago, in terms of the map generating the routes on there, sort of plotting by road rather than just as the crow flies. It's almost instant, whereas in ORD 10, it probably crashed the Bunzl servers if we tried to do that. So it's a huge improvement. The UI is very easy to use, and you know, it's reduced our time to train. So when we bring new planners in, we're probably looking at sort of a 2-hour training time, depending on their previous experience, versus maybe a couple of weeks to really get them into ORD 10 previously. So it's far easier to train. And we've certainly seen more accurate route timing. So that has enabled our planning team to maximize the driver shift. So we're getting more onto the route. So our drops per route have increased. And we're also seeing better on-time performance to our customers, which, you know, is a result of that more accurate route timing.
Thanks for sharing that, David. And in this feedback that you're sharing, what are the development points for ORTEC roadmap and why?
I think we understand that the product is new, and we've worked really closely with the development team over the last 6 months. I think one thing that would be great to see in the product, which might sound a bit silly, is an undo button. I think, you know, planners are curious, problem solvers. They like to try things, but then often they might be a bit off the cuff sort of decisions. You want to go back to what you had before. I get there's probably some challenges in doing that, having a multi-user system, but it certainly would be something that would be nice to see one day in the software.
Cheers. We're really looking to continuously get feedback from our customers and enhance further the propositions. Now, looking ahead, what's next for Bunzl and also for the Bunzl ORTEC collaboration?
I think data is one of the big things for us. I think we recognize that our data probably wasn't as clean as it could have been when we put it into B2B. So we're constantly trying to improve that master data quality that we've got now. And, you know, ORTEC is certainly supporting us with that as well in showing us how we can improve there. I think ORTEC, in terms of the loop that we often discuss, we're now looking at additional modules to bolt onto our B2B software. So like Ben was showing earlier with the various tiles, we're looking to develop as we go along. I think optimizer tuning is one thing that we'll be looking at as well, along with the ORTEC team, so that we can try and improve that route quality and eke out even more efficiencies than we've seen so far. And I think, you know, with B2B, we have now the opportunity to scale that up across, whether that's other businesses that sit within the Bunzl Catering and Hospitality division, outside of that in UK and Ireland, or indeed into other Bunzl businesses in other countries. So I think it's really exciting times ahead.
Thanks for sharing that, David. I found it very valuable, and I hope our audience found it insightful as well. It's always valuable to hear feedback directly from our customers, you know, about the journey, insights, and successes. So we are pleased that you have joined us today. If there are any questions for David, we'd be happy to open it for a short Q&A. So yeah, please type them in the chat if you have anything to ask. If there are no questions now, we can also feel free to put it in the chat, and then one of the ORTEC representatives will follow with you, or also David can respond to the chat. Thank you very much, David, for sharing the experience with B2B.
Thank you.
Now I'll be handing it over to my colleague Denoris to introduce himself and also to run you through ORTEC cloud optimization.
All right. Today, we are going to go over the wonderful world of load optimization. There are customers that have been using us for decades, and there are some that may just be new. But for the uninitiated, we are a 3D load optimization tool. We specialize in taking into account the physical dimensions of your products, your pallets, and then also your trucks and your different types of loading equipment. And we take into account everything from stackability, axle weights, prioritization of products, where products are located in the warehouse, stop sequencing, so on and so forth. Now with this, we really have 3 different levels of optimization. So the first one is carton optimization. The next one is pallet optimization. And last but not least, of course, is load optimization. And with this, we have 2 main platforms for the load optimization. The first is a cloud native optimization that we call OLO, that you can call via an API, you can pull up in a web browser, etc. And then we also have an SAP embedded solution as well that you could do the load optimization. And with this, we have it in both SAP ECC and then also SAP S/4HANA. And with that, we can optimize everything from demand in the form of STRs, your orders, deliveries, shipments, and freight orders. And with this, throughout the last several decades that we've been doing load optimization, we've covered many different industries. And so I'm going to go high level and just briefly touch on each of the different industries that we cover with load optimization. So the first is, of course, beverage industry, where we do a lot of optimization when it comes to your dry vans, but then also your side loaders / bay trucks. And with the bay trucks, we have to take everything into account from which side of the road a customer is on, if it's on the left side of the road or the right side of the road. Which preference does a customer have as far as which bay they want to be placed, have their products placed in, so on and so forth. But then also with that, we also have to take into account, I'm going to go from left to right, we have to take into account everything from refrigeration units that you see on the left, that we have several customers place these refrigeration units into their trucks, keg pallets that we have to do with a lot of beer distribution companies, as well as on the bottom right, you'll see CO2 tanks. And then at the top right, we have several customers in the beverage industry that use fully automated warehouse picking machines that they use our 3D load building to have these machines that look like Megatron to build the pallets. And so these are all the different types of things that we do within the beverage industry. And then when it comes to food and distribution, we have several customers that have multi-temperature zones within the truck. So in this particular example, this is a screenshot of a customer that has dry, frozen, and dry, and then we have to sequence the pallets in a way in the truck that when we're unloading at a particular stop, we're not touching too many pallets within the truck. And so we also have customers that do dry, refrigerated, and then also frozen. Moving along to the building and construction, which we do a lot of different fun things within building and construction. We do everything from on the left, from flatbed trucks to drop deck trailers on the right. Rail cars, so on the left you have your box rail cars, on the right you have your center beam rail cars, where we have to take everything into account from stacking, and then also where we're going to put the dunnage, so on and so forth. We take into account everything from pipes, and also you see on the right, you see these giant paper rolls that we have to stagger within the truck to distribute the weight all throughout the truck, so we can actually, number one, not incur any violations as far as legal laws, but then also add more products into the truck by doing so. And then also nesting, and we have several customers of ours that have to nest bathtubs and other appliances like that. Moving forward to CPG, our consumer packaged good customers, this is where we get into a lot of our customers that have tens of thousands of SKUs, if not hundreds of thousands of SKUs. And so when we look at CPG in particularly, we're looking at customers that, when we're talking about stacking different products on top of each other, it's easy to know that, hey, I have this really heavy material and I know I cannot stack it on top of this light material. But then there's this gray area in between where you have hundreds of thousands of SKUs that warehouse loaders and pickers are not sure how many times can this product stack on top of this product, and then if it can, how many times. And so we work with our customers to come up with a more advanced way of stackability. So we have really two main ways to determine stackability. One is a simple stackability matrix, but then this next method is a max support weight, where we work with our customers to come up with how much weight can this layer support, and then from there we'll build the pallets accordingly, and then also stack the pallets accordingly based on how much weight the weakest link of that pallet can support. And by doing this, we typically see our customers add an additional 3-4 pallets to each truck, and by doing that, we've seen a reduction of trucks off the road from anywhere between 3 to 7%, depending on how complex their stacking rules are. Also with CPG, we handle other different types of truck types. So on the far left, you'll see these beamer trucks where you can place these beams in the truck to double stack pallets. But then also on the right, which we see typically a lot in the UK, you have these double-decker beamer trucks, double-decker trucks as well. And then also within CPG, we do everything from floor loading. We'll break up pallets to put cases on top of existing pallets, so on and so forth. Now, when we talk about best in class, or what are some of the ways our customers are using our load optimization to drive savings, we do optimize two different methods. So first is full truckloads, which is a little bit more easier to understand. And with that, we typically see our customers trying to optimize as furthest upstream as possible at the order level or even at the demand level to drive savings. But then also, we connect our load optimization to our routing tools, okay? And with that, when we do the route optimization plus the load optimization, we like to do it in 3 different steps. So I'm going to first cover these first 2 steps because it's a little bit easier to understand. And what we see best in class for our customers is using this 3-step approach. So let's say the input, for example, will be a delivery or an order. This first step, before we actually do the route optimization, we like to do an initial pallet and load optimization. The reason why we do this is that most route optimization software, they take into account only weight and volume, and they'll do a guesstimate of how many pallets does this particular order take up. The issue with that is you can have 2 orders with the same exact weight and volume, and due to stackability, due to where products are located in the warehouse, one can have 5 pallet spots in the truck, and then the other order can have 10 pallet spots in the truck. Maybe some products are located all the way on the left side of the warehouse, and some products are located all the way on the right side of the warehouse. If you're just only looking at weight and volume, you may look at that as 1 pallet, but because we take into account warehouse locations, we see that as 2 separate pallets. Okay, and so the information that we're sending to the route optimization is the actual physical characteristics of each delivery or each order. So the data we're going to send to our route optimization is how many floor spots or load length does this particular delivery take up into the truck. And by doing so, we send that physical characteristics to the route optimization, and it allows us to be a lot more aggressive when we are doing the route optimization because we're not guessing how much space does this order take up. We're accurate, and then that means we could be a lot more aggressive on the route optimization. So after the route optimization, of course, then we do the final load optimization, which is what we call a validation. And that's where we're really looking just to see where products are going to be located, take into account stop sequencing, and then that's the information that we pass on to the warehouse driver, the warehouse forklift operators. Okay, and I just want to touch on this really quickly because many customers often ask that we have customers that are using ORD or our other routing solutions, and they're trying to understand where does the load optimization, how do they fit and how they talk to each other. And we typically see that customers drive more savings when they do this 3-step approach. All right, so that's all fine and dandy. Now let's talk about what's a bit new in the ORTEC world. So having a beautiful 3D load diagram is wonderful, but then the question is always, how do we send that information down to the warehouse? And throughout the years, we've had many different methods from sending it down to the WMS, pick sheets, PDFs, and web browsers. But in the last year, we developed what we call the loading app. And what the loading app is, it is a native tablet app, and it's also on your phone, where the warehouse loaders and then also drivers can pull up on their tablets or their phones to see the 3D load diagram to help them, especially if they have a tablet on the forklift, to be able to know where products are located, and it also drives a lot more warehouse efficiency with that. Now, within this app, well, we really have 2 main personas if we can just zoom in on this bottom right part. On the left, we have the loaders and the drivers. And the reason why we have 2 different views is these 2 different personas have 2 different roles and what's important of what they're viewing within the load optimization. So first, let's start off with the warehouse loaders, shall we? All right, so for the warehouse loaders, the information that they're going to be viewing is more so on a per pallet basis. And with that, they can color by load sequence, products, and then also stop sequence. Now, the information they're going to be viewing, if we zoom in on the left side, you're going to notice in blue, you're going to see L01, and then this pallet below it, the information is going to be R01. This basically is the loading instructions. This tells the loader, this pallet is located on the left side of the truck, first row. This pallet is located on the right side of the truck, first row. And the big benefit of that is that we do have some customers that have a high turnover rate at the warehouse. And so this flattens that learning curve and enables them to not have to take experienced warehouse drivers, loaders off of their forklifts to train new hires. The other part of this app is the driver side. And with the driver side, you're going to see the same information, but it's presented a little bit differently. on the driver's side, if we zoom in on this left side, instead of looking at it on a per pallet basis, we're looking at it on a per customer basis or per order. So if the driver gets to a stop and they click on any of these customers on the left, it'll show them which pallets or cases they need to unload for that particular customer. And once again, we do have customers where they're unloading maybe full pallets, or they're unloading specific cases that they have on a pallet. So we have some customers where they do what we call order mixing, where they'll have several customers on one pallet. Especially earlier, you saw the beverage customers that had the side loaders. So knowing which bay they need to go to and how many cases, et cetera, from that bay they need to pick drives a lot of efficiencies within the drivers as well per stop. Okay. So that is it in a nutshell. That's all I have to present for today on the loading side, presenting kind of what we've done in the past, but then also what is new in the loading space. And I will pass it back to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Denonis. It's really good. Okay, we're now going to take a short 15-minute break. We'll come back in 15 minutes' time, where Esme will take us through our B2C solutions. Okay, we'll pause there. Thank you very much. If there's any questions, keep them coming in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer them.
All right. Yeah, for this last demo part of this webinar, let's move to the other side of the market, namely the B2C market, business to consumer, where we have our ORTEC for home delivery suite. So today I will take you through the suite, through the specific application that we have in here, also including dynamic time slotting. So it's really focused on customer-oriented features, making sure that deliveries can be done on time and to increase customer satisfaction. As you can see here, this is the landing page of the suite. It's fully cloud native. It's all based on API integrations. And today I will be taking you alongside the operational planner, as well as the dynamic time slotting, and also onto the dispatcher, where we will see how the execution is handled on the daily delivery routes. What's good to mention is that we also have for in-store picking, we have a dedicated application as well, which is called the Picking Capacity Manager, where you can handle the slots of the capacity of your workers in the store to pick the goods, and also the collection time for the customers to come pick this up. I won't focus on that today, but it's good to mention that we have that also in our suite. Let's start with the operational planner. So I will move into that. Within the operational planner, it's all based on automatic scheduling. So when the orders are coming in during the day, they're automatically scheduled based on the available vehicles that you have in your planning. There's automatic scheduling as well, seeing based on the customer order, the volume, the location, the capacity on the shifts. All orders are continuously rescheduled, but making sure that they stay in their allocated time slot that you've confirmed to your customer. With this reoptimization, the shifts are rescheduled such that they're made more efficient, and that we always free up more time slots for newly incoming orders. So to free up the space, making sure that we can incorporate as many orders as possible and provide these time slots to the customers. The planning is based on vehicle types. So based on the truck types that you have, such as, well, a truck or a small van or a bigger van, we manage the capacity of those vehicles, and you manage those via the capacity manager. Just looking at that briefly, so for the vehicles that you have, you set up the capacities and also the start and end times, the start and end location, and you can define per vehicle type how many you have in particular weeks or on particular days. You roll these out for your daily operations, and you can start planning with those in the planning side, which we see here. On the left side here, you see all the particular vehicles. Also, if I hover over it, you see that the map is fully interactive. So it's really built here to create user friendliness, making sure that continuous reoptimization is happening and the planner can see everything that is happening and has the overview of also making changes potentially. When I look in the details of the shift here, you can also see all this information that we've set up, such as the earliest start time, the latest end time, the starting and ending location, but also the available work time. Making sure also to incorporate driver breaks based on driver's regulation, making sure that we adhere to those and be compliant with the rules. And for all the trips that are done by this vehicle, where we say a trip is movement from a depot to the end customers and moving back to the depot where they could reload again, you also see here the planned capacity. So here you see the fill rate of the vehicle, where we can plan any unit that you have. Here you see the example of cases or kilograms, but we can also plan, for example, with pallets or with boxes. We can just, you can set up the unit in the way that you're planning with. Hovering over the plan board here, the planner can also see the specific details of the route. So if we let us focus on this route, for example, move in a bit. We can also make it more easily visible by drawing it on the map, making sure that we see how this route is driven. And you see also all the particular stops shown on the map. And in the plan board, you can also see all the dedicated steps that the driver will do, starting from the depot, what time they will load there, to the travels, the travel duration, the distances, and also the particular customer stops that they will do, including the delivery amounts that will be delivered there. Departure smoothing is also included in here. As you can see here, we see that all the trucks are not departing at the same time. So per depot, you can indicate the dock availability, so how many docks you have, what time the vehicle should depart, such that the departures are smoothed during the day. In case you have any violations on these docks, it will also be shown in here to the planner. Just to indicate how automatic optimization works. So in this case here, we have a violation on this route where we see that this last order of the route is scheduled after their appointment. Also, if we hover over this, we can see it. Basically, the automatic optimization, which I will trigger now manually, but normally this happens automatically, is continuously re-optimizing and making sure that these orders fit in the time frame where they're supposed to go. And here you see that the violation has been resolved by resequencing this trip, making sure that all deliveries are delivered at the same time, at the right time. I mentioned that, I would say one powerful feature of home delivery is dynamic time slotting, because it is all to satisfy the end customer. They want to be flexible. They need to be at home to accept the delivery. So we want to accompany the wishes of the customer in that way. For the time slotting, I can show you how that works. So basically, we have the operational planning here. But imagine you're a customer and you want to order a kilo of apples, for example, or imagine it's furniture. It can be anything that can be delivered to the houses of people. What you will do is you will create your order and you will put in your address. In this case, I would like to be Regent Road in Manchester. So at this moment, I've the system has geocoded my location in the customer portal. And at this moment, when I press select a time, this location will be sent to the operational planner to see, okay, where is the space in the vehicles? What time slots can I present to the end customer? These time slots can be defined by you on your side, but they can also be defined in the home delivery suite in the delivery area manager, which I will show in a moment. Based on the request to the operational planner, it will check, indeed, based on my volume, my location, where would this order fit best? For each of the options that are applicable, also we will provide the expected effect on the planning. So how much extra distance is it? How much extra cost? How much extra work time? And based on this, you're able to also price these time slot options in the best way to make sure that you can, for example, push customers to go towards the most greenest option that is most efficient to you, or let them pay a bit more if they want to be delivered in odd times. In this case, I will select this time slot. I will confirm my order. And this is the moment when this order is automatically pushed into the home delivery operational planner, and it's planned automatically. Going back to the planner as well to see this. Let's go towards the straight lines and show all the orders again. In here, if I will search for my regions road option, you will also see that it is automatically scheduled here on this shift within the time slot that I selected, namely between 8 and 10. So I will be delivered between 9:45 and 9:50. As I mentioned, these time slots can be managed by you on your side, but we also have in the suite, we have an optional module for this, namely the delivery area manager. Within this optional application, you're able to define geographical areas yourself based on postal code, but also based on a predefined selection yourself by manually drawing the areas on the map, as you can see here. Also, when I extend my delivery area, you will see it. But in this case, all these areas I've assigned to the delivery area Manchester. And for this delivery area, I can also manage the time slots. So in here, I've created a pattern saying that for this year, these are the time slots that should be offered to the customer in the Manchester area, falling into all the different regions. And these are the time slots for each particular day that can be offered to the customer. You're also able to close off time slots here, either one time because of a special occurrence, or if there's a recurring item why you could not deliver customers on the Wednesday morning, you can also close this off for particular weeks or every Wednesday morning. At the moment when the time slot request is being made and the time slot knows I'm in Manchester, it will check this pattern of time slots for the day that I want to select my order. It will check in the operational planner, where is the space, and it will offer me only the time slots that are available, and you can price them accordingly to push me towards making the best decision. Going back in the operational planner. So during the day, this automatic rescheduling is happening all the time, but also the planner is able to make changes themselves. So in case they do want to overrule something that is happening on a particular route, they can move the orders easily within the grid or on the map and see their changes and see the effects of their actions. At automatic cutoff times, the orders can also be released to the warehouse for picking, and they can also be finalized so that the routes can be sent to the dispatcher where the actual drivers and vehicles can be assigned and the execution start. Just to show you, also as a planner, I'm always able to do this, either by releasing the orders in this way or finishing the planning, which I'll do for this particular route. And you see it grayed out, and now it's ready to be assigned to a driver and to go be actually delivered. Moving to the dispatcher, here you will also see that it is seamlessly connected. So in here, you will see all the routes that are to be assigned to drivers or that are in execution. Showing this route on the map, here you can see all the route actions, the start at the depot, the fill rate, all the particular customers, and you see that I still need to assign a driver and a vehicle here. Based on the information that is on the route, you already get a pre-selection of what drivers are available to you, or which vehicles are available for this route. In this case, it should be done by a van that has 18 cases capacity, so it's already pre-filtered, and it allows me to just select from the vehicles that are available. In here, we also support electric vehicles. So when I add my electric vehicles, which are not applicable to this route, but just to show, in here, we can also integrate with the battery state of the vehicles. So as you can see here, for the electric vehicles, we can also show the expected charge at this moment, and also what is their expected range that they can drive. And based on this, you can also filter, okay, what are the available vehicles that I could select for this route, and it will help you to select the best vehicle to start doing this route. At this moment also, because I have assigned this shift to this particular driver, it can become available on the driver app, either the driver app that you have, we can integrate with any, basically. Also, we have the ORTEC driver app, where the drivers can be guided towards all the delivery actions that they need to do, including sign on glass, making pictures, barcode scanning, and all the elements that are required within home delivery. We can get the data from the driver back seamlessly from the driver devices, such that we can also see the progress going on. So in this case here, I have a particular vehicle that is already on the way. You see that the trip progress, I'm at the 4th stop right now. So if we zoom in here, you can see the progress on the map. And also based on the incoming realizations, the ETAs are updated all the time and also recalculated. And also the warnings and errors are shown to the dispatcher here. For example, indicating that if this driver continues as they are doing now, one order will be delivered late, where the dispatcher can here take proactive actions by rescheduling or re-optimizing or changing perhaps this order to a different vehicle. Shortly summarized, the ORTEC for home delivery suite supports you in the last mile planning for any business to consumer movement, so for the B2C market, while also using customer-oriented features like dynamic time slotting. In this way, customers can choose the time slot efficient for them, but also they're efficient for you because they will fit in your planning, because the time slots offered are based on the existing planning that you have. The time slots can be managed either on your side, in the home delivery suite here, and also potentially in-store picking can be supported in the suite. And that's it from my side.
Okay, thank you very much, Esme. Okay, so I think we're now at the end of our session. We've demonstrated everything we intended to show you today. So from everything from AI, loading, B2B, B2C, and it's I hope that's been well received by everybody. If you have any questions for any of the team here, please drop it in the chat. We'll be happy to answer them. That's fine. There's been a number of questions throughout the session, which we've answered as we've gone along. But yeah, if there are any more, feel free to reach out to the team. We'll be happy to help explain or demonstrate any of these features in more detail. And I'd like to thank everybody else for your time and attention, and look forward to seeing you on the next webinar, or indeed in person. Thank you very much, everybody.